Okay, been a while since we've seen one of these. It is very bright outside. It's kind of warm today. It's like 20 outside, which is not a lot, but if I have a window, it's like the kids are getting out of school soon, or they're going to lunch soon, so it's going to be very noisy out there. Refresh. Okay, yeah, it says it's 18. Feels like 18, but it's very bright, and like I said, they don't miss the sunset. It's 7:58. Okay, whatever. But yeah, been a while since I'm getting like the reflection of the window on the camera. So I'm gonna sit over here for a second so I can see myself because it's been a while. I have been recording on the phone, but Aaron had to go into the office today. I think setting up for next week or doing something. There is a big shindig happening next week, so there may be another one of these videos next week. Because I may have more to talk about because I didn't get it all talked about today. I just got done doing a bunch of stuff on WoW, my main character, and yeah. Coffee, breakfast. It's a long life update thing, I guess. Camp out in case somebody does something. Yeah. Darius, like, it's September, and we're gonna talk about the football stuff here. This may have chapters on it, down, because there may be different ideas. However, knowing how my brain works, they may weave amongst each other. So, yeah, it's part of the issue. Is my brain follows like 2 or 3 paths at once, and whichever kind of, like if one goes like, oh, I've already talked about it so much, and then it dips, one of the other ones is kind of doing this, it becomes the top layer, and oh, well, yeah, or it intersects, or something like that, yeah. But, yeah, so, like, January, like, the things I've been talking about since, like, that time, January, that was, like, the time where it was just, like, I had a major breakdown, and I was like, nope, I didn't spend enough time. During the December break. Probably because I was playing way too much World of Warcraft. But we have like I knew something like this was going to be coming. To be fair, several people have already commented on various YouTube videos about like, oh, when are you going to make more football videos? And I'm like, I won't be for the time being. Because I don't, it's not that I don't ever want to completely stop playing football, but I've done a lot of mental, I don't want to say regressions, but looking back, looking deep, talking with a therapist, spacing out on the bike, spacing out on vacations, going on vacations, so like Stockholm, London, probably something later coming up in the fall, plane or train, I don't know, probably train, and yeah, could be, I've spent just a lot of time being me, playing WoW, playing Star Trek, playing No Man's Sky, playing Final Fantasy, 16, playing just doing, like, it's one of those things that it's hard to describe because it feels like Americans generally who watch these videos are all about the grind. And when a person realizes the grind isn't profitable. Sometimes they can be considered a quitter, or you just gave up. You didn't try hard enough. Well, that's just. There have been a lot of things, at least in 2023, that I've heard about, tried to give casual social advice to people about, and gotten snapbacks or clapbacks online, specifically on Trade Chat and World of Warcraft, a global chat kind of thing. Talking with Americans, that's a side thing. And that the grind and speedy toxicity is bad. My husband and I do not care at this point of being rushed into doing anything. Not that we are taking everything a notch back, we're just not rushing. When I started playing football in 2012, 2014, whatever, I wasn't even sure what I was doing. I didn't know what it was going to do. And practice after practice after practice after practice. And then, like, the denial of not getting onto the team that year, while understandable, was quite depressing. And it's sort of like it itched in the fact that I was really trying for something, but I was coming from such a deficit in life. I was 32, turning 33. Yeah, that was a bit awkward. And so I've been having a runny nose recently, so that'll happen a bit. Trying not to use the Claritin and stuff, because they are a bit expensive here. But anyways, side note. We have, so I put in the effort. I put in the work. A couple years after starting that, I ran across Willie, who was willing to help and put in the effort also. Like, we were just, buddy together, and more so than just workout buddies and stuff. But it got to the point of me thinking that, it was like, oh, the grind makes sense. The grind is cool. The grind is good. I don't need to be that into the grind. But I was still going to the gym probably more often than I should have. I was taking excessive amount of time away. I was absolutely watching what I was eating. I was trying to get more muscle, and it was understandable. Why would you not? I'm trying to be better at football, so I was doing the football thing. So, like, what we do. And so I was on the grind, for as grindy as I could do. And I had goals that I wanted to put out, and I wanted to do. I had a checklist. I guess, if you want to call it a bucket list, but we'll call it a checklist. Like, when you start a job and you want to start into a career, you start doing things for that career. You start showing up on time, boss, getting that promotion, getting the you start working up towards the thing. You're checking things off the list because, yeah. And so I had goals, and they seemed really stupid at one time. They seemed little and dumb, but that's the thing is I knew to set myself up Like, there was the end goal. No doubt, there was an end goal. I didn't know how to get there. I had no pathway. There is no college track. There is no education track to do what I wanted to do. Because of where I was starting. To be fair, I later found out I needed college to do what I wanted to do at the end. And that kind of... So, what had happened is, playing football for so long, I had gotten the drive to do something. But I knew, I was like, oh, if I could just do this, I mean, that would be it. That's a goal. And then things happened in the States in 2018. 2017, technically. But 2018, I remember having the little hot tub thoughts of, it might be interesting to move abroad. Literally, if you know your geometry, you know your shift, this was a dot and a line. I had no idea where that was going. It was a thought that had no end idea. And as it laid down, as it came around, as it started to form, we took the pathways as they were allowed for. And it was happening faster than we wanted, but we managed. And we wanted moving, and secured being able to live abroad for a time. I had no idea how long this was going to last. It could have been 3 months. It could have been 6 months. It could have been a year. It's been 5. We knew fairly quickly when it was going to be permanent. But, yeah. Anyways, so we have, like, things I wanted to do. And like I said, these things seemed dumb at the time. I was like, I want to get more field time. Everybody wanted to do that. Everybody wants that. I didn't get a lot in the States. And I didn't become... kind of wanted to be, not necessarily like the dude of the position. Whatever. I mean, unless you're dealing with a singular position. Like quarterback. But I didn't want to be like the defensive back or the linebacker or the wide receiver, like everybody, like the star of that position. I didn't really care about that. I just wanted to be significant. I wanted to be important. Critical, not so much. Because I know in my old age, and I say old age considering probably who's going to be watching this one is younger than 40, is in my old age, if you are critical, then it makes you feel special that they can't do anything without you. But as a point of fact, if they can't do anything without you, and literally, what's called in insurance, act of God happens, your team, you are affecting other people by doing nothing. Like the fact, an injury for football could happen. And if you are not the kind of if you are critical position, and we see that with the NFL. We see people who are like, come save our team, be this, do all this planning, make our, like quarterbacks or something, especially recently. And they get a preseason or first bit of the season, absolutely catastrophic injury. I remember the one quarterback got an injury and he was out for a while. And he made a comeback a while ago, and it was actually really cool. But like he had to absolutely come back from nothing.
And now we have the other guy, Rogers. And this is like he switched from his longtime team to a new team, the Jets, and now people are. Now he's out. And it's like, great. I didn't want to be that person because I know. What now? Uber Eats wants me to get lunch. I wanted to be like a part of the group. I'd never really been a part of a group. I'd never been a part of a team. I'd never been with a social group. I always felt as the outsider. You know, the one that Pluto, I guess. I never fit in the Planet Club. No matter how small it was, there was always something that made me the outsider. It was too far away, it was too weird, didn't clear out my own orbit. White, I was gay. As my therapist said, I have minority stress because, at least in the States, it's been the idea of like, well, if you try to do anything with just regular guys, there's the inherent homophobia that comes with older folks. It doesn't really exist now, but as I was younger, in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was a bit awkward. So that's why I'm in closets. But then, even if that was not something the case, I was ridiculously, ludicrously over neurodivergent. Autism, ADHD, Lord knows anything else. You know, I hear a good sense of hearing. I have an incredibly offensive sense of smell to an extent. And sometimes other senses can be just too much for me. I get overwhelmed very easily. And so with that, and I think weird, and I overthink, and anyways, so that's bringing in another, as we said, coming to all in. There are different, moving here was still under the guise of trying to get my checklists done for football. And just feeling good. Like, I want to feel this feeling. I want to feel this. I want to know that, you know, I'm important or something. Outside of, like, a very intrapersonal relationship. Like, I want to have, like I said, a group. You know, if all I'm looking for, and this is how a lot of things in the States work for me, I sense works a lot for many people. They just don't realize it. There's a meme where there's a pipe and it's all gushing into a big fat cartoon guy's mouth. He's like, oh, and then there's a small crack in the bottom and it's dripping out into thin guy. Multiple words have been brought over that one, but that's how I was in a lot of cases. I was getting scraps. And if I didn't like that I was getting scraps, getting basic attention, I was not being hated on in numerous cases. In a few cases before football, I was tolerated to stick around. If I wasn't happy with any of that, I shouldn't get anything. That you will appreciate your scraps, and you will not ask for more, because that is what you deserve. That is what you get. And I think, after a fashion, my minority stress was clued into, again, when two guys are friends, they sometimes don't ever say anything, but they know how each other works. That Willie clued in that I was not your typical overtly I'm a white guy, yeah. No. That I was not happy getting scraps. I was not happy being forced to abide by other people's rules. And overall, that doesn't work. I don't like that in general. I do not attend weddings. I do not attend funerals because there is the social obligation to dress nice. And I hate dressing nice. Like, jeans and a t-shirt is probably the nicest I'll dress. And I only own one pair of jeans. It's so beyond my level of comfort. Seeing people dressing nice is an irritant on me. So even if for some reason here's a little thing. That's why it's a little awkward in our wedding photos. It's because it was also summer, but it was warm. So, but it's still like I'm in a t-shirt and shorts and I'm borderline sandals because that's what I wanted to wear that day. Plus I'd just gotten out of the gym and I picked up Willie from work, so he didn't have anything to dress nice for, but I told him, dude, this is what I'm wearing. And Aaron was coming after work, so he was dressed office casual. But that's still we were not in the tuxes, we were not set up in anything nice. I think the nicest person dressed was his mom. Aaron's mom. Aaron. And so, yeah. Back on track. When we moved here, I accumulated another minority. Now, this doesn't sound like I'm bringing up the word minority a lot. Take a shot every time I say the word minority, and you go to the hospital. And so, not only was, at least in football, gay was the minorityist. I think there are more women playing American football in men's leagues than openly gay men. So I was the minorityist of that case. But, don't ask, don't tell. And, yeah. But I came here and, a minority overtook everything else. There is a lot more skin tones in the Netherlands. Doesn't feel like it, but at least in Amsterdam and the major cities, there is a lot more varied skin tones. So that's not typically an issue here. There are people who are just absolutely terrible with those opinions, but in general, it's a person. But the skin tones are all over the place, and they don't really matter that much. Unless it's December 5th. And then there's the fact of homosexuality is not that big a deal because, as we found out living here for so long, sometimes guys will live in they'll live in a city. We'll say city. We'll say over, I don't know how many populations, 50 to 100,000 people. That kind of city. Not a metropolis, but not a village of retirement homes. Mid-size, I guess. Anyways, and they'll go to the same school. They'll go to this, they live next to each other. They go to Basis school, elementary school. They probably go to middle school the same. They're at least up into grade 8. And in stuff. And so once they're they're grade 8, and even if they if they test into different things, education thing, not getting into that video, but they can go to different schools. And even if they don't go to different schools, they sometimes can go to the same level of school. Like an MBO is what it is. I don't know the acronyms off the top of my head. I always have to look them up. But at least I can pronounce it, and I know what they are. But in like an MBO, because I remember outside the Hilversum station there was MBO Hilversum, and I'm like, okay, so, but it's possible that you like would still go there, and you have this friend that you live in the neighborhood with, you rode bikes with, you played football with, you went to Bassa school and middle school, and now we're going into the levels of high school. You may be studying different things. Someone wants to go in for cooking and the Horeca and the hospitality thing, and the other one wants to go in for sports medicine and become a physiotherapist. Totally fine, you know. And you guys still sort of stick around, but you're best friends, and you just stay that way forever. And you guys are as close to a gay married couple as you can get. And that is something here that is so common. So having two guys be like really nice to each other and really buddy with each other and hanging out together and doing everything together, it's not seen as odd. Nobody is like, oh God, these two guys are having dinner together. Are they gay? No, they're probably just friends. They don't care. It doesn't matter. Do they have the gay? Yeah, they do say it. But, you know, that's just how American social media has moved in and corrupted other things. You know, if I'm gay, ik ben homo. If I'm gay, it's the more derogatory term. Although we're getting to it. The minority that took above neurodivergent as all get out and gay is American. Like, you know, it just, when I was at the bakery, before I really even started playing football, I got something to eat for Aaron, and they were asking me something, and I said, my Aaron, oh yeah, mein Mann. Man, oh, gefeliciteerd. And I didn't know it at the time, but that's what she said. But yeah, and I was like, dank je. Because it sounded, at the time, it sounded great, and I knew a little bit Dutch. So I said, thank you. And it was perfectly fine, and we moved on with the conversation. But like, the lady at the bakery didn't care that I had a husband. And so, and the guys on the Hurricanes didn't care. Probably nobody would have cared. Like Aaron came out and filmed a lot of the games in football for a lot of things. So, like I said, we're going back with the minority. I was an American. That is a low minority here. That is minor minorities. And the fact is, I didn't know Dutch. You know, linguistic minority also. So not just like nationality. I could have been English, but I was a linguistic minority also. They speak really good English here. Like, it's a 1B language to most of the Dutch. But they still they weren't as proficient in expressing themselves as well as I was in English. But, so that hit. And the fact that, you know, people knew if they didn't want to speak English or they didn't want to worry about translating or if they felt uncomfortable speaking English, they wouldn't talk to me. And it did lead to a lot of loneliness. But there were also the people, like, people had to put in just a little bit of work to talk with me. And so I started doing more to go towards them. Most of it was just listening. Because I realized I could do the absorption of Dutch a lot better if I just listened and did my people watching skills. and apparently it helped. But here's like the joke. Like once they talked to me in English, they realized, oh my god, he does not shut up. Like we were making jokes about times in our early 20s. And I said, yeah, when I did that, it was one of those things that shut me up. And one of our linebackers like, that's possible? You can do that? Oh, I might have to get some of this stuff. Because even as a minority language speaker, I still talked a lot. Because I felt comfortable around people. If people don't think I talk a lot, I don't feel comfortable around you. Oh, he's a quiet kid. Doesn't feel comfortable around you. Feels comfortable around you, that mouth will go dry. But anyways, so yeah, we have, back to the football thing, again, the checklist, is, once we got here, I was a part of the team. We went to camps. I was away from Aaron the first time we went to away games, really, was when we went to France, and that was with Aaron. And that was because that was a thing in and of itself. But, like, doing the socializing helped at that point. And then we had camp, and that was probably when I broke the collarbone, or at least mostly fractured it, but, you know, who knows. And then, yeah, whatever. But then, like, injuring myself, and then going back and making a comeback after, you know, absolutely shattering my collarbone, I tried, you know, I was like, no, we're not done yet, even though that was, it's not a check, like, I wrote it in, and it was like, for you guys, this reverses things, so, recognizable, you know, sort of like, you know, one of the guys asked, let me see your fingers. Hey, you play football? Yeah, let me see your fingers. And like, I did this, and he's like, oh, and I did that, and you can kind of see that finger, like, here's the index finger, here's the middle finger, here's the ring finger. It bends in a bit more. And that was one of the ones that just like really broke. And he goes, aha, your fingers are crooked. Now I have a real crooked finger. I mean, that thing is, it is significantly, it's significantly fatter. I broke it and it didn't heal right. But, you know, I also have this, a metal plate in my thing. Anyways, that is not the kind of check you want to put on your checklist, but you're kind of glad you have it. Because, as I've told people in my comments, told kids, it's not a great thing to have an injury like that, but you don't get injured on the bench. And then after I came back from my thing, I started putting in more work. I realized I was getting a little older. I wasn't going to be able to run that much, run long distances. So we moved me over towards, you know, middle linebacker and blitzing, and I started working with the linemen, and like, it just, you know, and then the point of like, oh, well, now I'm labeled as the starting Mike linebacker for a top-level division American football team in a nation. Okay. Like, it's not the NFL. It's not University of Mississippi. You know, it's not whatever that spring league was, whatever that one with like the Generals or something. There's like 8 teams that are dicking around outside the NFL. the D League. I forget what it's called. But, was it TSL, the Summer League? Whatever. I don't know. I didn't watch it. It's hard to see that stuff here. But, like, people were, like, the linemen were working with me we're drawing up, fake pushes and how to do this and where to go and, okay, yeah, let's do this. Picked off, running a blitz. I wound up actually picking off the best quarterback in the country. Like right at the line of scrimmage. Like it wasn't even like, oh, I got to turn over on downs, but like the ball got moved like 8-10 yards even, because I caught it right behind the line of scrimmage as a blitz, and I just ran, and my stride, especially at running full speed like that, is already maybe 1.5 yards. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times 1.5, you're like 6, maybe more, and then falling forward because they all tackled me from behind. Yeah, there are times I got quarterback sacks. And it was just like, I sat back and I was like, and that's what happened after January. I was like, something's hitting really hard. And so I started up on a medication, antidepressant, and anti-anxiety? I'm not sure. But anyways, it does its thing. And part of it is the fact is I've been thinking recently that because of it, I don't have the general level of anxiety that I have. Do I still have GAD, general anxiety disorder? Yes. My anxiety is triggered faster than most other people. But I also have a high tolerance for being able, I'm functionally anxious. But with that medication, I was chilling out a bit more. Things were like I was just, and it got increased to a dose because what we started was to work my way up. But once I hit like 100 milligrams is when it started to actually hit me. And it wasn't that I was becoming negated. I wasn't being like, yeah, man, hi, I have no way of feeling depressed. No, I wasn't doped up. You guys can see by this whole video, I'm not doped up. However, it definitely, I've noticed now how my anxiety is disordered. Because if something's supposed to be delivered by somebody, like a sleeping test for my husband or something, and they want him to do it and they're going to wrap him up, but like the power went out earlier in the morning because the power company was working on something out on the road and they wound up cutting it off, and it was off for like 20 minutes, but it came back up and the elevators reset. Like that was an issue. Like the elevators reset, they were both labeled Boutendienst, out of service. So we had to go up and down the stairs. Now, that's not a big deal, but we live on the 5th floor. And I came home with like 15 kilos of groceries. So, almost 20. So I'm like going up Dutch Amsterdam stairs when I'm not used to. I used to go down it, and I do go up it if I only have like one thing in my hand, but not when I have an American high school level of weight in my backpack. Like the books just, that's kind of why my shoulders overall just lean down. They aren't picked up because I've had a backpack just pull them down for years. Y'all know what I mean. But anyways, so, yeah. And that's what that was. And it just took me a bit to get up, and this was like recently, but I had taken time on my bike, and in Dutch it's called uitwaaien. 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 It's basically, when they do it, it's borderline like gale force winds. Outvying is when you have pretty strong to storm level winds and you go for a walk. The idea is that the wind is so strong and so oppressive that it just blows all the bad out of you. I didn't need to do that. I have a bike. So like riding for long periods of time or going straight, and autistic brain doesn't need to worry about mapping. I can just sit there for 5 minutes, generally pedaling, and with the ADHD, I'm walking, so my brain works, and I'm outvying with my face, and I'm just, it feels like you're walking in a high breeze. But anyways, and so yeah, I get a lot of thoughts, and I'm just like, there is nothing I regret. There's nothing. What were my end goals? Playing for a national team and getting paid to play. Mostly it was getting paid to play, even if it was minor. But like, when you're paid to do something by a company, you are at least the capitalist United States upbringing of mine says that you are worthy. But that's the thing. In the Netherlands, I was never going to get paid. But that didn't stop me from feeling worthy. And that's part of it. Is I spent so much time at the grind that all I saw was a grindstone after a fashion. And I finally took a break. I even said, guys, I need to take a break and think about things for a while. And I did. It was like 3 months before I fully realized what was going on. And those last 4 months have, over the summer have been just sort of like weight off my shoulders, figuring things out. And it was just like, I could find excuses why I'm not playing football anymore. I was getting out of shape. I wasn't putting in the effort for my diet. I was gaining weight where I probably shouldn't have been. I wanted to stay a linebacker and was being a little princess, and if I couldn't be a linebacker, I wasn't going to play whatsoever. I mean, I could make excuses. And one of the excuses is the fact that I am 42 years old. And what happens in age is the fluid in your eyes can create, this sounds, I love how weird it sounds. The fluid in your eyes creates creases because it's not technically water. It's water with biomaterial in it. So sometimes like a little crease or a filament can form that doesn't actually look that way, but it can bend the light just enough. And that's what your floaters are. To be fair, you can actually also have like actual dust on your eyeball. But like, I could see, like, I can't see it now because the light and all that stuff, but like, I'd been noticing it during the game, or during practices, that I was seeing things that weren't there because I was seeing more floaters in my vision. This does not impact vision on a general scale. I'm not going blind, but I was definitely, with my hyper attentiveness during braining and trying to stay stuff on football, like I would see the running back go this way, but then a floater would move this way, and I'd momentarily go, nothing there. And the running back's already gone. I didn't react fast enough. Plus, I'm old. My reaction time was getting low and slow. My body was becoming a bit more rigid than I was expecting. And I just... So, as I've stated in comments, and I stated on a previous video, I decided that with anxiety not being much of a thing. Now here we're going to circle back to the anxiety thing. I wasn't dealing with anxiety. Not that I needed to deal with it like pay the price, pay the piper. It wasn't really a constant level. So when it got excited, my brain's like, oh, we're having a panic attack. Time to engage all things. Sweating, panicky, because I'd had so much uncontrolled anxiety in my past, my brain learned defensive mechanisms. And a lot of that is, oh, time for a panic attack. Engage defense mechanisms. And I was not having general anxiety all the time. So when the spikes would happen, like if this is the level and then suddenly like, oh, my train's late, is not that big a deal. But the train being late puts it up at a certain level. But if I'm only dealing with this level and all of a sudden it's this, my brain sees I'm not going to get too much into math, but sees the curve, sees the rise, even if it is the same objective level. If I had a constant level of 5 and having my train delayed bumped me up to a 6.5. Now I would be at a 3 and going up to a 6.5. Is that the same anxiety level? Yes. Is that a drastic rise from the base level? Yes. My brain and my defense mechanisms worked on the calculus of the thing, not the absolute value. So even though it was a 6.5, been there, done that, had this happen before, it saw that it was a 3.5 increase, not a 1.5 increase. The curve going up was so much sharper. And so it was like, shit. It's used to 5, reads a 3.5, and treats it like an 8.5. And so a train being delayed can cause a meltdown. Not just a panic attack, whole ass meltdown. Like, a panic attack to me and a terror attack and a meltdown are different things. To most people, a panic attack might as well be a death attack. But, yeah. But anyways. So, that's pretty much that. That's what happened. And I realized that my life was becoming much more relaxed, much more calm. And I didn't need to rush and grind and do everything. And my brain said, you haven't done blah, 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 blah. And my work ethic in everything that I do, my work ethic kicked in and said, well, what about? Except this time I had answers. I had evidence. I had videos. I had memories. You never really... Did you feel a part of a group? Do you remember what it was like at 2 different camps? Do you remember Groesbeek? Do you remember going to France and having, sharing beers, kind of beers, with linemen? Just, do you... Do you have these memories? Yes, you do. Do you remember going to Belgium? You remember going to Germany? Do you remember meeting people that lived in other countries? Yeah. Okay. Well, were you critical to the team? I didn't want to be critical to the team. I wanted to be important, but not critical. We already went over that one. Well, how do you know you played football? Well, I have 8 years of YouTube videos. I have a lot of memories, and I have a couple injuries. I even have a tattoo. To be fair, I do not know what happened with this, but over time, I have put several things together. This didn't heal correctly. Why? The bones are fine. Had the x-ray. And they're like, man, these bones are great. But the skin, as you can see, here went weird. Here, it's like, it went, like this is fine. This is the normal little thing. I had a big, most people have like a little cut. When they go in and they go, and then put the thing down. And they slide it in. Mine, no, they had it all open. They had, I'm not going to discuss that, but they had to completely reconstruct my collarbone. But yeah, it didn't heal over here very well. That is a finger width scar. Over here, it's a little line. When you get out here to the shoulder, it's huge. This will never tan again. And I see that every summer. I don't think my skin heals, fully repairs itself. It heals fine, but when it's damaged, it heals clunky. So that's what happened here. A lot of stuff happened because there was a lot of needling over the strap, and this probably would have been relatively fine if I just said, hey, let's take that strap off, let's not worry about that, and just dealt with that. There's still a lot here. It still looks fine. I do not regret it, despite the fact that my body healed weird. But I still know what it is. You can still see, to an extent, that it's a hand holding a football helmet. It is my hand holding my football helmet for a team that I feel proud about. Did I work well with the team? I don't actually know. But I don't have any regrets. Fully. There are always regrets. If you lead a life of no regrets, you are probably dead already. But I could have probably had friends. I probably could have done things a little better. I could have been different to people. But the Dutch are very infectious. And someone like Martijn, specifically, who went specifically out of his way to chit-chat more than other people did. And their absolute bluntness, which was a joy to my autism, it got to the point where I was listening to Martijn's advice in my head after the fact, looking at my life, looking at this checklist, and I just went, this is the softest landing, and I finally understand the sadness that comes from retiring from something like this, but it also makes me realize that not a lot of people could do what I did. And so the checklist that I have is over and above what I ever thought was going to happen. And if I want to dwell on the fact that I didn't complete the checklist, I can. Or I can say to myself, hey, you got more than a handful of things checked off on that list. You added some things to that list that will stick with you. And so, and with the reasonings come the reasonings. Like I said, my vision is getting more little things. I notice it while I'm biking, but again, now that I know they're there, I realize stuff. But in the heat of the moment, in a fast-paced scrimmage environment, they are a distraction. My reaction time is slow, and I was getting a little out of shape. With the anxiety medication, that generally tamped down a lot of stuff in my life. I realized, specifically now, that I have defense mechanisms, and I don't know, like, I wasn't listening to my body, and I was pushing through, but then when I didn't have the anxiety, and it made me realize things. Now I've heard people say that, oh, it didn't look like I was having fun at all. But that person probably didn't know who I was, really. They knew my name, they knew my background, they watched my videos, but they didn't. Like, when Aaron read that comment, he's like, I would not say that. You just have a weird way of showing it. When I get a gift from someone and I don't do anything with it and I forget it exists, then I don't like it. If I get a gift from someone and it's like food and I eat it so fast, if I am constantly using something, if I move continents with something, if I cannot shut about it, censoring for what little that does at this point. If I am, this is a weird term to say, it's something if I'm gacking out over it, it is important. I am not one to do that sort of thing. I'm not one to just, bleh. I don't do that sort of thing. If I wasn't having fun, if it wasn't important to me, I wouldn't be doing it. So, was I enjoying myself? I enjoy things weird. I like pushing myself. That's why on my bike sometimes, like more recently, I've been going down and maintaining a slower speed on my bike in the city, because one, I'm in the city, and two, because I don't need to. I don't need to rush anywhere. I don't need to do it. I just. And that's how things are going. This is a long video. I'm going to edit that now, and I'm going to go out and ride a bike, because it's one of the last few remaining days we've got. I'm going to eat this, and I will catch you guys on shorts and little videos, and maybe next week there may be a longer video. But I think this is the football video everybody's been waiting for.